Rich people of Reddit who married someone significantly poorer. What surprised you about their previous way of life? I'm not well off, but my stepfather is. I was raised by a single mom who spent money on everything, and bills were always behind. She just couldn't manage her money at all. In her 50s she met and married a multi-millionaire. We are in middle America, so that goes further than maybe in a lot of areas. They have given themselves $10,000 a month budget to live on, living on interest, own their home. Anyway, once my mom met him, and they got all her finance situated and paid off, she won't spend a penny. He spends like it is going out of style. He has actually begged me to take her shopping to get clothes and accessories. She won't do it. She spent more when she was a single mom with nothing. It makes no sense to me. At least buy a new outfit. She is hell-bent to not use a penny of his money. They barely even have any groceries. If they have anything, it is because he buys it for them. She is a retired nurse that gets a retirement and SS, but she won't spend anything. She lives poorer now than any other time in her life. This sounds less like a financial issue and more like she's trying to preserve her pride. She knows that people will think she's a gold digger if she spends his money, so she's going to the opposite extreme and refusing to benefit from any of it. Sandwiches. When I made him a sandwich, I only put one thin slice of meat in it. He couldn't believe that was how I had sandwiches growing up. Growing up, we weren't allowed to just eat deli slices. It had to go between 2 pieces of bread because that would fill you up faster and save on meat costs. Your comment just opened up a huge window into my husband for me. He's always railing against me for letting the kids eat lunch meat slices straight from the bag, and I've always wondered what the big deal was. You just made me connect this to his poor childhood. My wife grew up not poor, but not very well off, and a good snack for her was a spoon of just peanut butter. I had never used peanut butter as anything but in combination with at least something else, i.e. bread. It's little things like that. Edit. Loving everyone's enthusiasm for peanut butter. We are now a combined 6-figure household salary, but rest assured the spoonful of peanut butter has transcended wealth and is a favorite for our children. Haha. I fell in love with my uni best friend who really didn't have any money. When I got a job for my birthday, I decided to plan a holiday and offered to bring him along. It didn't even occur to me that this was his first ever holiday he'd ever taken. His family could never afford it growing up, and he'd never really thought to do it as an adult. I really feel this one. My family did maybe 2 vacation type trips in 18 years of growing up, and both of those were to places relatively close by, few hours of driving. If it wasn't for a couple of school sponsored trips, I probably would have never left my region of the US until I was an adult, and I still haven't left the country. I remember in college, there was a school sponsored trip for a class I was taking that involved air travel. The look on another student's face when I told him I'd never flown before was absolutely priceless. Now, as an adult with a middle-class white-collar job, it still boggles my mind to listen to coworkers talk about all the trips and cruises they take and talk about flying to Disneyland for just a weekend getaway. I can't get myself into the mindset of someone who can actually afford to travel now, because it just hasn't been a part of my life at all. She and her mother lived with her grandfather to not be homeless, because her grandfather owned a house. She was putting community college payments on her credit card and building debt with it. I paid off her credit cards when we were dating, and she cried from me being so nice. It was only like $1,300. I bought a condo, then we got married, then we bought a house. I never really considered myself rich until I started dating her and learned that a trip to Wendy's was a treat. I grew up middle class, and we are currently middle class. Heh. I'm from an upper middle class American family and my husband is from a poor Asian family. It is hard for me to wrap my head around how poor they really were when he was growing up. He told me about eating only rice with sugar for meals because they couldn't afford meat. They were probably living off less than $0.50 day for a family of 5 at times. I'm Southeast Asian as well. Rice, soy sauce, eggs and a little vegetables go a long way. I know this is not the point you were making, but reading those ingredients just made my mouth water for fried rice. Cheap ingredients doesn't mean bad food, it just means a lot of the same food. My husband grew up in a family where they were comfortable, but on a strict budget. 6 kids and mom on disability. My family had no budget. One day we were at the grocery store and he always insists on walking up and down every aisle. I finally lost it because he was taking so long and asked him why he did it. Growing up we could only spend $100 a week on groceries for all of us. I always had to put what I wanted back because we couldn't afford it. Now I can afford whatever I want, so I like to look at everything I could have. Took him 10 years to tell me this. I felt like a terrible person. Edit. Thanks for the silver kind homies. My dad is a successful business owner now with several houses and multiple sources of income. But he grew up dirt poor when he had parents and became even poorer when he was out on his own at 14. Think sleeping on the floor of a gas station men's room. To this day he will take a small handful of cereal out of his bowl before he pours milk in and put it back in the box, so he'll always have some cereal for later. Over 40 years later, and the pain and worry of growing up poor without luxuries, like breakfast cereal, still affect him. Growing up without money does shitty things to people. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. I'm not rich at all, but my husband came from a very poor Mexican village. He told me he used to shower outside because there was no in-house plumbing and use leaves as toilet paper. I mean, there's poor, and there's my husband's previous life poor. He's been living in the US for 12 years now, but when we first met it was so interesting seeing life through his childlike eyes. Going to the cinema was a huge event for him. Heating food up in a microwave was a totally foreign concept. And staying at fancy hotels when we went on vacation was like whoa. I still see him surprised by things now and then, and it just reminds me how much I take my middle status class for granted. Mexican here, you'd be surprised how common that really is. In Tantoyuca there is a hill called Hollywood, where there is no plumbing and no government help. There are women who make tamales and other large numbered meals for every kid in the neighborhood because their parents can't feed them, and we don't abandon our own. Also, it's very common to be shocked by things like fancy hotels because ours are nice, sure, but there is rich gringo Nissan. It always appalls me on the TV. Not rich but with a partner who was raised by a teen mom and grew up poor. Sometimes I just want rice and vegetables for dinner. That's a no from her. She won't go back. My dad was the opposite, grew up quite poor and built a business up and ended up doing quite well. Still eats like there's only 25 cents in his checking account. Left alone, he would gladly eat ramen every day and his go-to meal is rice porridge. We went to Osteria Franciscana in Modena a few years ago, literally named the best restaurant in the world. We all went for the tasting menu, but he asked to order a la carte, and he wanted to order just buttered fettuccine. He only agreed to the tasting menu when they insisted that the whole table had to do it if some of us were doing it. He'll even insist on eating things that have been burned or drink milk that's just starting to turn. I dated a 1%er briefly. She was surprised I willingly went inside fast food restaurants. Edit. Since people are saying 1% is still a huge range in income, I just looked up her daddy pulls in $10,000,000,000 a year. I'm not dating her, but she's a good friend of mine, and her parents are definitely 1%. I told her I had to work this summer to save up for a graduation trip and that money was gonna be tight for the next year, but I'd love to go on a safari after graduation if I managed to save enough. Mind you, I'm solidly upper middle class. Her parents paid for it just because I'd helped her move into her apartment. It's not like that's what friends are for or anything. My wife earned many times more than I did when I was a high school teacher back when we were dating. She sometimes would drive my 10 years old primer black stick shift Honda Civic that my cousin lent me until I could buy another car. She was blown away how aggressively mean people are to you when you drive an ugly old car. When she got out of the car the spell lifted. I got a lot of respect from her for that. She seemed to think I was a saint for not turning sour over it. I was constantly getting pulled over by cops and let go, targeted by road rage, and also pedestrians felt too comfortable engaging with me. I drive a newer Honda, 1 year old, now, and it is so different. I drive the same, but probably drive a bit more aggressively now that I can't hear the wind roaring by when I'm going over 40 miles per hour. I haven't been pulled over and haven't had a negative interaction on the road in a long time. Also, my wife now enjoys trading cars with me.